Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. It's morning here in North America, but today I have the honor of our first British interview. These British guys have been a little shy because I've asked a few and they've refused, but this morning we have Mr. Greg Holmes on the line, and we are going to learn everything about him. Good morning, Greg.
Good afternoon, and let's get this thing on the right track straight away. It's Craig.
I was just thinking that. It's Craig.
Okay. Michael, it's Craig.
Yeah.
And the reason no other British people wanted to go on this particular forum is they are worried about their image rights. And unless there's a contract in place that will pay them per view, they're just not interested. Frankly.
Is that what it's all about? Well, we're just going to have to talk to Jeremy about that. I'm just
whereas I don't care, frankly. I give it away.
You give it away for free, huh?
Give it away.
All right. Well, first things first. You are from Manchester. Or no, sorry, I was going to say Manchester, Northampton.
I've been to Manchester.
Yeah, you have. I'm just going to throw up the little map for us folks that may not know where that is exactly. Northampton. There you go. It's about halfway between London and Birmingham, right? Sort of.
If somebody asks whereabouts Northampton is, that is exactly the answer I give. About halfway between London and Birmingham.
Yeah. Right off the M1.
Yeah, and my little house, my little bungalow, is about 3 minutes from junction 15A of the M1. So I'm actually very close to that side of the town.
Now, up on the screen, I have a nice building, and it looks like it's from Wikipedia. There, it says it's a modern somebody's house that's turned into a museum. Is that what it is?
Is there an address? Is it 78 Derngate?
Yes, sir.
Ah, yes. That's in England. That was a famous designer in the 30s who was responsible for some sort of Art Nouveau design of furniture, and he was from Northampton, and that used to be his house, and it's been reconfigured into the format it was when he lived there.
It looks, you know what? I've got it on the screen there. It looks like a city hall from a lot of people's towns. It's a pretty massive thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is, what did you call it? What architecture style did you call that?
You see, I'm presuming. See, if you're looking at the town hall, that's not what I'm talking about.
No, I think. Oh, it's got a clock on it. Maybe that's not the right one then. I got it here. I got it here. Now I think I got it. It's a.
Tell me what it is, and I'll tell you what it is.
It looks like a square. It's like a. It's there's this.
Is it a church?
Oh yeah, it might. No, it's not. Yeah, it could be. It is a church for sure. It's got Gothic windows in it. But I think I found the right picture for the house. There you go. That's all right. Our first live mistake there. All right.
It's not a mistake. It's a learning point. That's what they say.
Is that what you say? Okay. You British guys, you're also very polite. I'm a gauche kind of guy. I'm gonna put our face back up here. Hold on. There we go. So there we are. I gotta make sure. Yeah. There we go. Got you back on screen. So how old are you? I haven't asked that question to the other guys. We do want to know how old people are. We're not a bunch of girls. So.
Currently, I'm 61 and a half.
There you go. See, I find I'm one of the older guys here. I'm 67, or will be at the end of this couple months or so.
Well, I suppose I'm in the middle of the demographic of our people.
You're probably right. But I tell you, when you get to 67, I'm blaming that my poor driving on reaction time because I'm old.
I've been blaming it since I started. So.
But we've got some 70-year-olds that are super fast, aren't they?
I know. I was overtaken by the very young Mr. Trowbridge, which is very annoying. There we go.
Yeah, me too. I'm having a coffee here too. So tell us, what's it like growing up in Northampton?
A long time ago. This is like every narcissist's dream, isn't it? To be interviewed, to talk about yourself. But I will try and be brief and as interesting as possible, which is very, very difficult growing up in the late 60s, early 70s in Northampton, because it was a market town, relatively small, relatively not famous for anything other than the manufacturing of shoes in the Napoleonic War.
Oh wow! Yeah.
That's when the growth of the town came around. So I was a typical kid. My dad was used to work for a bakery delivering bread, and then later in life he was a postman. And my mum was they call them adult social care people now, but she was a home help, so she would jump on a little she would jump on a moped and go and visit old people to make sure they were all right, and do a bit of cleaning and this sort of thing. So that's sort of my background. And I went to school in Northampton, normal, ordinary state schools, usual trials and tribulations of UK schools. So lots of bullying, lots of being good at sport, because then you're not bullied. So that was always a task for me at school. Make sure you get in all the sports teams, because that's where all the bullies are. So if you're friends with them, you're fine.
Oh yeah, is that cool? What was the sport besides football? Because I'm sure it was football.
Yeah, it was football, but also cricket.
Cricket. Oh yeah.
So they were the go-to sports, and probably still are to a large extent in the UK. So it's easy for the teachers. Football and cricket, 2 teams, split down the middle, off you go. They don't have to do much supervision. So yeah, I played football at school and cricket, and did some learning. Did relatively well in school, which surprised my parents amazingly.
Home, you weren't like that at home.
Well, I think it was because they weren't idiots, but my dad left school when he was 15. My mum also, when she was sort of 15, my mum went to work when she left school in a dressmaking factory, and my dad was in the shoe trade. So there was no great academic, scholarly.
And that's common for parents of our age.
Yeah.
I think my dad went to grade 3, and my mom went to grade 8 or something like that.
Yeah. It's strange. So when it became obvious relatively early on that I was sort of, I knew what was what, and I could do reading and I could do adding up quite well, and I grasped, concepts quite quickly that I would not follow in their footsteps in any way, shape, or form, and they wouldn't have wanted me to, so that was fine. So school was a mixture of being academically relatively good to get decent grades, but also to be in with the sporting crowd to, more of a self-preservation tool.
That's cool. Else. That's interesting.
Yeah. But that's not. It isn't to say I didn't like sport. I loved it and still do. And I think my interest in motor racing came from, just competition in general, and being of a competitive nature. That's something that I got that from.
Yeah. That's a very good point for all of us. Probably, some of it. That's why none of us like playing the AI. We like beating humans instead.
Yeah. There is something about that, and it's measuring yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
against other people, and in a good way, not in a I'm better than you. It's just it's far more interesting. And when I started doing this sim racing nonsense that we're all involved in, I didn't race anybody online because, well, frankly, I was too scared. And so you I don't know if this is true for most people, but you start off racing solo races against the AI, and that doesn't really give. And that's great fun, and you learn things, and that's all really, really nice. But you don't really know very much about yourself from that. I think the way you find out about yourself is to be involved in events with other people that share the same passion that you do. And I remember, when I was finishing my school days, I was of an age where computers were sort of just becoming things that were in the public domain a little bit more, and people understood what they were, didn't know what they were for, but understood them. And we did, when I was at my last few years at secondary school, we did computer studies. Yeah. And I loved it. I loved all of the logic. I loved all of we learned basic language.
Yep.
Basic computer language.
I'm a computer guy. I know basic.
So typing it all out. And making sure you haven't got a comma in the wrong place, and making sure, and then running the program on the little tiny computery things we had at school, which were orange punch tape going into a typewriter, basically.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah,
I loved all of that, and being able to write your own programs. And so when that all started, and I was into computers, I didn't think very much of it at that point. I bought I think it was called an MSX computer, which was sort of a hybrid before Amstrad came along, and the Acorn before they came along, or maybe at the same time. And I was given one of those for Christmas, and so that got me involved in being able to buy things to put on computers, which leads you into gaming, that leads you into what sort of games you like. And that leads you into being able to do sports. Yep. And it's great because you can do sports online that you have no chance whatsoever in real life.
Yeah, true.
Of being even mildly competent at.
like racing a $500,000 car.
Absolutely. And I would like to say that I'm a thwarted racing driver, and all my life I wanted to race a motor car. Well, that's complete nonsense, because it was never ever a possibility, because you need lots of money for that.
Yeah. What did you do for a living? What did you do for a living? Or what do you do for a living? Because I see you're still working.
I am still working. Yes. Yeah. So I finished my degree. Let's get the timeline right, and then you'll understand how I ended up where I am. So I went to university and I read chemistry for no reason whatsoever, other than that's what I was best at school. So I went to university, Nottingham University, and that's the first time I was away from home, and did a 3-year course, which after 2 years, frankly, I was bored. But I stuck it out, got a degree, and then ended up working in sales, of all places.
Oh, wow.
Mainly because I couldn't really stand being stuck inside in a laboratory.
Yeah, in a lab somewhere, right?
Anymore. It was, I'd done it consistently for about 5 years, including school. So I just needed something different, and so I ended up selling vehicle finance, of all things, which was a bit random, but it was out of desperation, really. I was unemployed for a while, still living at home with my parents. So I'd been away to university for 3 years, not living with my parents, and then moved back, not working and living with my parents, which
that's a recipe for doing that's a recipe for doing something different, right? It's right there.
Yeah, I mean, bless their cotton socks, as we say. Lovely people, and they were more than happy for me to be there. I couldn't say the same. So I was sort of not forced, but I chose, I needed to do something to just not be stuck at home. So I ended up working in sales, selling vehicle finance to companies for a number of years, and ended up treading the sort of technical sales type roles until where I am now, which is I work for a company called Torque Meters.
Okay.
And we make torque meters, and they measure torque on engines and on anything that goes round and round and round and round. So gas turbines and steam turbines, powering compressors and gearboxes. And I'm responsible for a particular product that is used in petrochemical industry, which everybody loves nowadays.
Yeah.
And my geography is it's quite diverse. Let me remember so I look after North America, South America, Europe, including the UK, North Africa, South Africa, Asia, Australasia.
Wow.
And that's about everywhere, basically. So
sales though? Sales?
Yep, still in sales, still mainly not. It's not sales as in knocking on
industrial sales. Yeah, industrial sales.
Yeah, industrial technical sales, and it's more of an educational thing. So I will just suggest gently to prospective customers that they should maybe, if they have time, please consider what we have as a real benefit for what they're trying to do. So
it's a torque meter? Is that what you?
Yeah.
So it measures the torque of something you're trying to torque down that you don't want to break or whatever. You got to get a certain amount of torque.
Well, if you look at, let's take a good example that we will all relate to. Will be Formula One engines. And when they develop Formula One engines, they have a number of shafts based on the power coming from the combustion engine and the power coming from the hybrid part of the engine configuration. And when they are testing these, they want to know how much power there is in those in the relative shafts, because they have to marry the power at particular points when the engine is running to maximize the overall power of the engines. And so we manufacture basically it's something that sits in the shaft drive line that will tell them how much torque is in that shaft. So how much power is in that shaft. And so it doesn't go on any vehicles, but it does go on test beds.
So is it electronic, like a load meter kind of thing? Oh, cool.
It is electronic. It's basically, I don't want to get too technical.
No, that's fine. I'm an engineer, so I'm loving this. I don't care what everybody thinks.
Okay, well, briefly.
Okay.
And nobody has to buy anything. All right. Okay. Buy a thing.
Maybe, hey, you never know. This could have wide reach on the internet, and you make a few sales. You never know.
Who knows?
Who knows what all us guys do?
The principle is that when you apply any power in a shaft of any length, it will twist slightly. Okay, because you're driving it at one end and you're powering wheels or a gearbox at the other end, and so we basically have an instrument that measures the amount of twist. And by knowing the stiffness of the material, normally metal, and knowing how much it has twisted because we've measured it, we can know how much torque or power there is coming from the driving machine.
So
basically,
that's cool. So this must mean that you're great at setting up your car. You talk torque and everything. Wow.
Well, see, I said before you weren't listening, Mike, were you? I do oil and gas. I don't look after anything else in the business.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. That's great.
But one good thing about the business that we're in, every time there's a Formula One race, and if I'm presenting to customers, and there has been maybe a few days previously, if it's in season, I'll say, did anybody see the Formula One race? And they'll say, yeah, we saw it. And I'll say, who won it? And they'll say, one of the teams, so Mercedes or Red Bull or whoever, probably Red Bull these days. And I said, oh, great, that's great, because we supply them with equipment. And we do. And it doesn't matter which team wins, because we supply them all. Yeah.
So you must get to go to all the races then. You're an official supplier.
Look, Mike, you're not listening. Petrochemical is my bag.
Oh, I see. I get your point. You're in the wrong. You got to switch over, man. You got to switch over now that you're a driver, man.
No, it's even. So what we do. So my colleagues who look after that aspect, they get to go to the Mercedes factory, or the Red Bull factory, and because we're in the UK, a lot of
most
the
of them are there.
in the UK. The only ones where some travel is involved is if they go to Ferrari. Obviously, that's somewhere else. And Renault. France. So but even the legacy companies like Cosworth and Honda, they are all customers of ours. So we've got a legacy in the motor industry, and I suppose I've always been involved and interested in things like Formula One, and touring cars were a big deal in the UK. And then bringing that back to sim racing, because I like computers, and I was fiddling around playing ridiculous first-person explory games like Ultimate Underworld, I seem to remember from back in the whenever. That led me on to, like everybody you speak to of a certain age, they will mention Jeff Crammond, I'm sure. And his Formula One games were the gateway to me being able to look at racing online, really. And that was because of two things. Firstly, he released the game. Secondly, where I was working at the time, which was Shell, they gave me a laptop and strictly told me not to install any of the software on it. So what did I do? I installed Jeff Crammond's Formula One Grand Prix onto my work laptop So I could play at racing using the up and down, left and right arrows. The left and right arrows for steering, and the A and S buttons for acceleration and braking.
We all know those, yeah. We all know those buttons, yeah.
So
Wore those keys down, didn't you?
Yeah, so that was my introduction to solo sim racing, and it was solo forever, as far as I was concerned, until Codemasters brought out one of their Toka touring car, the very first one that had some sort of online support, and by that time, obviously, dial-up modems were a thing, and the internet was more established, and I got internet at home. And I thought, well, I'll try this. Why not? This must have been I'd got children, so that would have been crikey.
Early
mid-90s, maybe.
Yeah, 90s, yeah. Dial-up racing on a dial-up modem. Now that's a veteran.
Yeah, and I managed to get connected, and it was awful. It was laggy. The graphics were dreadful, but I managed to complete a race, and there was some chat going on. And the winner volunteered that they were 12 years old. And I didn't go back. I thought that's ridiculous.
That sounded creepy, didn't it?
Yeah, and I'm playing online with a 12-year-old. That just doesn't sound right. Does
No, it doesn't.
So I didn't pick up anything online. So I did a bit of on my own. I had a wheel system with plastic pedals that I used to do Toka touring car too, but it was all just me, just as a hobby, really.
Yeah.
I suppose, like a lot of people, it was the lockdown time where the things that you normally would be able to do you couldn't do, so you look around for something else to do.
Did you stop? Did you always fool around with them, or did you stop until lockdown?
Well, no, I always had something on the go, and how much I was involved, but it was always just me. It was never a...
Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay.
And I didn't really know. I didn't know any of the slow in, fast. No racing ability or education. It was just a game. That's purely what it was. It was a game rather than simulation for me.
I had gotten away from it. I had gotten away from it for a long time because the wheels were so awful, and the experience wasn't great. So I just gave it up for like 20 years until lockdown. But then it just and you got back into it, and I said, "Holy crap! Oh, look at the technology, and the stuff is great." Yeah,
and it's when you do get back, it's a steep learning curve.
That's for sure.
Really steep learning curve, and I didn't really understand. Even when I started with eSeniors, which was relatively early on in the first season, not the first race, I wasn't around then. But I thought I was Billy Big Bollocks, as we're not allowed to say on YouTube.
BBC.
But I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing, and it was just one of those situations where it's just your own sort of ambition and bloody mindedness just to do it.
And seeing that you've got to make some progress to compete. Because I remember your name early on. Probably hit you a couple of times.
And what it's like a lot of these things, isn't it? If you're in a relatively small pool, your position in the hierarchy of how quick you are. If you are in the top third and there's 3 of you, then you're the quickest. If you're in the top third and there's 30 of you, then you're in the top 10. If you're in the top third and there's 100 of you, well, then you could be 30th, couldn't you? So, and that sort of happened as eSeniors has become bigger and bigger and got better and better. And it will attract better drivers and better drivers than I will ever be. And you have to, and that's great. It gives you an ambition. It gives you somebody else to learn from, and also, more importantly, somebody to get very, very annoyed at. Season 2, I finished 6th. Now I'm 12th. What the hell's going on? But that's how it should be, and to not improve is to go backwards.
I'm gonna throw up your livery on the screen. You're driving an Audi these days. You always driven an Audi?
No, I started off in the Bentley. Because it was the only car in ACC with the steering wheel on the correct side. So I loved the Bentley.
Yeah.
You know, the engine, it just sounded great. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
You know? And I've always been one of these people that would rather. So you know, the cars, they come and go in fads, especially within ACC, based on lots of things. You know, how new they are, what's been happening with BOP, and some are perceived to be quicker than others, and they probably are. But I think for most of our drivers, it doesn't make any difference. It's just either it's a placebo effect because we think, let's say the Ferraris, when the Ferrari was released, it was widely described as being fast and easy to drive. So lots of people drove it, and they were fast, and it was easy to drive. But is that because it was, or is that just because they were confident enough to drive it?
Yeah, no, I feel you, because I started with the BMW, went to the Ferrari last year, and I'm going back in the same tracks and seeing what my BMW times would be, and they're almost the same. You got exactly.
You see, my ambition in all the ACC races that I take part in is to be the first or the top finishing driver in the mark of car I'm driving. So I try and pick cars that nobody else drives. because then I can always then blame the balance of performance. I can always blame the game for making the other cars quicker than the one I'm driving. And it makes me feel happy.
Yeah. Let's go back to your livery, though. Is that Thunderbirds on the side? What's behind that? I know the show.
Okay, now, when I was growing up, so Thunderbirds was a children's show, and it was like a puppet, proper marionette puppet with somebody moving all the things. And if you look at the old Thunderbirds, you can see the strings and all sorts. And when I was a kid, I loved it. It was like my go-to program. And when I was looking around, and then when I was driving the Bentley, I don't know why, I happened to see Thunderbird 2. And I thought, you know what, that looks just like a Bentley. And then, of course, our very, very good friend of all the races, Nikos, I said, look, Nikos, can you? I'll buy you a beer. Do me a livery with Thunderbird in the style of Bentley, please. And so that's where it started. And then having done the Bentley as a Thunderbird, and then as the Bentley fell away in terms of, it was just too slow. Even for the fast boys, nobody was racing a Bentley. And I'd done it I think I did the Bentley for about 3 or 4 seasons. So I was figuring that I couldn't get any quicker in it. So I went to the Audi, and then I thought, well, that looks a little bit like Thunderbird 1. So Nikos kindly, I gave him some pictures of Thunderbird 1. I said, look, make my Audi look like that, please. So that's where that came from.
I'm just trying to get a screen shot up there. I got it right now. Hold on. We got a Thunderbird picture right here.
There's my.
There we go. There's a Thunderbird. There's the guy in a pilot in his cockpit. I remember that show. That was kind of a fun one. Oh, there you go. There you go. I just saw one of those images too. So if you can see the internet there.
This is Thunderbird 2.
Ah.
I picked this up recently in a thrift store.
Yeah. Cool. So this is the pilot sitting in there in the picture on the image on the screen. That's a pilot for Thunderbird. Yeah, that was a fun show. It's got to be almost like the precursor to some of these Marvel things we've got going these days.
Oh, way before. But yeah, similar sort of fantasy type thing. But and I recently watched them back because they were on one of the cable TV channels.
Oh yeah.
And I watched them back, and I realised how rubbish the stories were.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But at the time, you're 6, 7, 8 years old. It's the thing. It's the thing to watch. And for one Christmas, my parents bought me a Thunderbird uniform with a hat, and yes.
I did see on the screen when I was looking for an image that looked like something that they tried to revive with some. They
did a remake, and when I was asking Nikos to do the liveries, I strictly told him none of this new stuff.
Because Gotta be the old one, right?
None of the new logos. I don't want that. No, that's not genuine. I want authentic. That's what I want. Authentic, original Thunderbirds. So
Cool.
yeah.
All right, now we're going to put up your rig. We got to go through the rig, of course. And you're a desktop guy.
Oh,
You got a rig, but yeah, you're a rig, but stuck under a desktop. I see a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the issue that I have with rigs, I don't have an issue with them. It's, you know, so there are definitely two schools of thought with rigs, as far as I can work out. There's a school of thought that want it to be like a cockpit in real life with all sorts of stuff on it. And that's typically like triples and extra displays for lots of things and
buttons.
Yeah, button boxes, exactly, and that's absolutely fine. And that's if you want to. That gives you big levels of immersion, and it's interactive immersion as well. So you can press all the buttons and you know where things are, and you can check all your screens, and that's fantastic. Now, for me, I don't have a lot of space, and also, unfortunately, relatively early on, I tried VR.
I see the Oculus in the corner there on your file cabinet.
Yeah, I've got a Quest 3 now that I run. And the first time I was in VR, obviously, like everybody, when you go backwards, you feel sick, because you do. And when you have a collision, you feel sick.
Oh, yeah.
Because you do.
Yeah, I haven't tried one, yeah.
But by gradually trying it, and what I found, and this is a top tip, everybody, if you're trying VR, if you go into a spin or you know you're going to have a collision, close your eyes immediately.
Oh.
Because it's the disconnect between what you're feeling and what your eyes are seeing that triggers the nausea. So if you can't see it, it's not there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So
yeah.
that was something I found useful. But having sat in the cockpit in VR, and the thing that did it for me straight away, I looked down and I saw the fire extinguisher.
Uh-oh.
Simple as that. And I thought that's the fire extinguisher. Down there, it's a fire extinguisher. Look at that. And I was completely hooked from there. And then, I had a little go with triples because I'd got some monitors lying around. They didn't match, didn't sync very well, and I realised you need a lot of space.
So do you race in VR? Are you racing in VR these days?
Yeah.
Oh, you are.
Forever.
Okay. So it doesn't matter where you can put the rig in the backyard then, if you had to.
Yeah, and I don't need the fact that I've got a big monitor on TV in front of my rig is purely because if you're messing around with setups or just normal stuff, then you need to be able to do that.
Yeah, but you're the first VR guy. So is the response time great, perfect? You don't notice really at all? Oh wow, cool.
No.
So what's that little headset worth then? That particular one.
It's I paid £380 for it. It's not expensive.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than triples.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so cool. So you do recommend then?
Yeah, I would, but then it depends what you want. If you want to be able to press your buttons and you want to be able to look at your extra screens and you like all of that thing.
Oh, right, that's true. Yeah.
Then in VR, you've got, you have to memorize your steering wheel buttons in VR because you can't see them.
Oh, that's true. I never even thought of that. Yeah, that's a good point.
If you can't press your keyboard to go and look for something.
Yeah.
Because you're in the car. Now, to me, that's great because I'm supposed to be in a car.
That's what the driver has. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like it, even with those limitations of not being able to, and sometimes I haven't got enough buttons on my wheel. So my wheel is a Fanatec Formula Carbon wheel, so it's a bit limited on buttons, doesn't have any rotary dials. So if I want to change my traction control, I have to pull up the software menu in the game as I'm driving and make an adjustment on the screen panel.
Okay.
But you get used to it. You know what buttons to press.
But you do get to look around at least. Yeah, that's the big advantage. Obviously, you can see me coming up on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's more realistic. And I think from my point of view, if you want to do a simulation, you want it to be as simulatory as possible.
Yeah.
And having done a little bit of playing at triples, but also then jumping into VR and seeing a fire extinguisher, it It blew my mind. And,
I bet. No,
it
it doesn't get distorted off to the side like the.
My VR journey started with an Oculus Rift. Was
Yeah.
it CV? Whatever the first one was, I bought a second-hand one off eBay because I'm not going to invest loads of money in something I hate. So I thought, well, I'll buy a second-hand one. If it's no good, I'll sell it. If it's okay, I'll use it. And if it's really okay, I'll get the next one, sell that one on. And so I've done that with. I went from an Oculus Rift to a Quest, and then from a Quest to a Quest 2 to a Quest 3. Was there a Quest 2? Yeah. So I've just followed the Quest lineage up to a Quest 3. The only other downside I would say is that ACC is not the best sim for running in VR.
Okay.
I've had to spend so much more money on the PC.
Oh yeah.
To run it.
Okay.
VR.
So it's a hog on the CPU side.
Yeah, from a graphics point of view. Whereas AMS2 and ordinary Assetto Corsa, they are just lightning quick. You don't need a super PC.
Oh, okay.
So, but it was Christmas one year, and I thought, well, why not?
Yeah, and that's Husingveld pedals. You're one of the good guys.
Yeah, Sprints. Yeah, and
Sprints.
again, I went through Logitech.
Yeah, of course.
Like everybody, and they're fine. As budget, just to see if you're going to get into it seriously, then you go load cell. So I went Fanatic Club Sport load cell wheels, and then I went to the Sprints from those. But and then I went to a direct drive, the small DD1.
Yeah,
Fanatic.
DD Pro. Yeah.
And that's I don't. It's like a lot of these things. Some of the improvements you can make, and some of the equipment you can buy, and I think Peter Wolfslander in his interview alluded to this, that it can make you a little bit better, but there comes a point beyond which you can spend whatever you like, but you won't be.
Yeah. There's driving to it. We are driving after all, right?
You've got to get in, and you can tell. So I know for Chris Bourne, who we all know, you could put him in a tractor and he'd beat most people. Yeah. There are some people that are just naturally able to understand either the physics or just the feel, or they will be quick in anything. And I'm in awe of those sorts of people because I've never been like that, and I'm certainly not in sim racing. I don't have any natural talent. Okay.
Now I beg to differ. I noticed on SimGrid you got a podium last time.
But it's because I stick with one car and try and get as best as I can in that car. So if you were to say, look, and this happened recently where we were going to do an endurance race in a car that wasn't the LD, I jumped in and I think it might have been the Ferrari, and I was 2.5 seconds off the pace. And that was with a car that had been set up. It wasn't like the safe setup, or it was a properly tuned setup. Whereas if you take somebody like Peter or Chris Bourne, and if you did that same experiment with them, they would be bang on.
Yeah.
They would be on, because they're better than I am. So my position and ability is due to just not switching too much.
But you're so just for everybody's benefit, you're platinum, or not platinum, you're a silver, and you finished 7th in the silver.
Platinum. Come on.
Oh, you're platinum?
Yeah.
That's the highlight. That's the big boys.
Yeah.
7th with the big boys and a 3rd place finish. You're up there, man. Come on.
Yeah, but it's not natural talent. I don't have this ability that some people have. It's just not swapping around too much and spending any time that you can practice.
Yeah.
Doing meaningful practice.
Yeah.
So
just wait till you retire. When you retire, man, you'll be up there with the big boys.
One thing I've noticed about eSeniors is that everybody has their limit, I would say, and I know where mine is. And if I can finish top 10, I'm delighted, absolutely delighted. Yeah. Which is why when there's only 10 in the platinum group, it's brilliant because I'm always in the top 10.
Yeah, but it's fun to have the multi-class too. But how did you end up with 3rd in Mount Panorama? That was pretty cool.
Everybody else hit the wall and I didn't.
That's the story of Mount Panorama, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I did technically win one season at Spa. Do you remember this Spa big pileup?
Yes, the pandemonium one.
Yeah, when Mr. So I followed Krista through the mess.
Oh,
in that race.
Yeah.
And I was second, and I think it was Andrea Caola who used to race with us, who was very quick. Doesn't race us anymore, but he won the race, but he got a penalty.
Oh.
So technically, I won that race.
You got one of those. You got one of those.
I got one of those, yeah. But there are some tracks I love and I'm relatively quick at. There are others that I've practiced more than most. Like Brands Hatch is a classic example. I have practiced Brands Hatch until I hate the place.
Yeah.
Because I know that's the only way to get faster at somewhere is to practice it. But no, I just cannot. I know, and it's like all of the circuits that we race on. I know how to drive them.
Yeah.
I know where you should brake.
Yeah.
I know, I know all of those things. I know, don't rush into the corners, get to the apex, accelerate. I know all of that, but I can't do it as well as some of the others.
Unless you put 100 laps in, you get a little bit better for that one race.
Well, yeah, maybe.
And then you forget, and then you come back a year later, and you're back down 5 seconds slower.
Where do I brake?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Well, I do remember, but I still can't do it.
Yeah. And I do wonder if and natural talent is, and it's a great thing. If nobody had any natural talent in anything, wouldn't the world be dull?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
If we were all equally good at everything, that would be horrendous, wouldn't it?
Well, it's going to be fun next few weeks when we get Nordschleifer. What it's 80 corners. Have you done it in AC? Have you done it in AC a lot?
I've done a few laps. I don't like it.
Oh, I love it. Just because it's so long.
I don't like it? Do you know why I don't like it? Because if you look at it as a lap, how long is it going to take me to learn that lap?
I know, like 8 minutes or 7 minutes.
It's going to take me the rest of my life, probably. I like short tracks.
Oh, I see. I remember my favorite story about that one is in some of the games it's not a track, it's like the real one, and you end up with the barrier at the end because you got to go through the gate again to pay for it. Yes. And first time I'm going in an F1 car and smash at 250 miles an hour. I said, "What's this?"
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it's the holy grail, isn't it? And has been for ACC to get the Nordschleifer in there, and everybody loves it. And I feel like I shouldn't really say that I don't like it because that's not.
I wonder if they're going to have
should love it.
I wonder if they have all the graffiti on the pavement. It looks like they are.
They must do,
I think they're going to because some of the little pictures they have, the prelude pictures are there.
Oh, it's part of it, isn't it? It's the whole
very cool
thing. And one thing, driving it in VR, which I've done not many laps, probably 4 or 5 in AC. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. And when we did Red Bull Ring recently, it's driving around. It's lovely. I know you shouldn't be looking out the windows. You should be focused.
Well, you're in VR. You can look around backwards probably.
Yeah. No, you can. Yeah. But it is that whole thing, and small things that really bring me to enjoyment in the game is silly things like sitting on the grid before the race, just glancing at one of the cars in front of you, and you can see some of the things they've written on the cars.
I know.
Just things that they probably only know they put them there.
Yeah.
And you think, I like that. And it's that sort of it's the depth of the immersion I think that you get in VR, which for me trumps everything and makes the game what it is.
For me, I'm an early graphics guy in terms of trying to get it to work, and early computers, knowing how hard all that stuff was back then, and probably how many tools they have now to do it. It's just crazy.
I remember the early PC games where you had to try and you had 4 megabytes of memory that you couldn't fill up with the game, and you had to change your autoexec bat file to make sure you didn't load too many things to exceed the memory level. That was all very, very mysterious.
Yeah, no,
and a bit nerdy probably now.
Oh yeah, exactly. So I see you're in the endurance race tomorrow. I don't know, 2 days from now, so that'll be fun.
Well, there's a story, because I was supposed to be going on holiday on Friday afternoon, and so I'd messaged my co-driver, Mr. Andy Driscoll, to say that I'm sorry, I can't make it, and then I can't go on holiday until Monday. So yes,
you're out and in again.
I'm back. We're back in. I said, look, are we okay? He said, yeah.
So has Andy driven the Audi before?
So in the last endurance race, that was where was that at? Was it Spa?
Yes, it was Spa. Yeah.
I think we drove the Ferrari there. No, we didn't. No, there was one between because we messed up one of them. Well, I messed it up because I left the server and jumped back in because I had a technical problem and that messed up.
Oh, I remember.
Synchronization.
I remember. Yeah.
I think that was the Spa race, and then we might have done another one since then. I can't remember, but we did one successfully. We did Kyalami. Was it Kyalami that we got wrong? Can't remember.
I forget
but,
now. I forget.
But yeah, no, and I quite like an endurance race, and in fact, the eSenior historians amongst us, of which there are many, I'm sure, will remember not the first eSeniors endurance team, and I will tell you who was in it. It was Peter. It was Mark Nutlings.
Oh yeah, I remember Mark.
Carlo van Brabant and me, and we did the 24 hours of Spa for a charity that Mark Nutlings was involved with, the organisers, and we put a team in, and that was my first and that was like a big exposure to endurance racing, going from never having done an endurance race in my life to doing a 24 hours with three other team members, and it was just, I mean, unfortunately I wasn't very well. I was under the weather for the whole thing, but I'll always remember it. Just the support, driving at 3 a.m. UK time.
Wow. Yeah.
Hearing Carlo's voice from the States saying hello, because I've been driving for half an hour on my own. Because obviously at 3 a.m. in Europe, everybody's asleep. So Mark was asleep, Peter was asleep. But because Carlo is based in North America, he was obviously just coming on stream when I was driving around on my own. So
why, Andy? Do you know Andy? Or just
no, only recently from eSeniors, and I think he was looking for somebody, and I said, yeah, I'll drive anything. I'll be slow in it, but I'll drive it.
Well, I'm going to stream it. I'm going to stream it for a change. That'll be fun.
Yeah, no, I'd love it. I love endurance, and I think it's one of the things that other sports don't do.
Yeah, true enough.
You don't get endurance tennis matches or endurance golf, or there is nothing like it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And it's difficult. You can't. You go one of two ways. You either have a regular 2-hour endurance, let's say once a month, or maybe twice a year you have a big, like a 12-hour endurance. Because giving up that amount of time is difficult.
Well, the good thing about in the admin, and when we were talking about endurance in the admin, we had a couple of ones that weren't very well attended, but we got 15 teams this time. That's good. Well, I'm hoping the stream works out because
well, and I think the streaming is. Well, in general, all the streaming that eSeniors do, that you do, and Krista does, I think it's underrated in terms of promotion. I think it's important.
Yeah, it is. It's fun.
It's
fun to do. Both Krista and I enjoy doing it too. So once you get into it, it's kind of fun too.
Because I always feel I did wonder, because you both like to race, and you can't race and commentate.
Yeah.
It's unless you're really, really good, but that's just not possible. So you are giving up time when you could be racing just to talk about us idiots racing, and that's kudos to you and to Krista for doing it, because it does bring it to a bigger audience. I show people at work, say, look at this, look what I did.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, it's fun, and it's so professional looking too. It's amazing how it looks. Again, technology.
Yeah, I showed it to one of our young girls in the office, and she said, Was that this weekend? I said, yeah, it was at Spa. She said, what time did you leave then to get there and get back to work? I said, it's not real. She said, isn't it?
That's hilarious.
It looks good. And she looked at it closely. I said, no, it's not, is it? I said, no, you idiot.
All right, well, if we've been at it for an hour, that's pretty good. Last question. How about what's your daily driver?
Now.
Oh.
This is going to upset. It's going to upset a lot of people because it's
Good,
If anybody is still awake, I drive a Kia Soul EV electric vehicle. It's my daily driver.
Oh my God! There's gotta be a race somewhere that does Kia Souls though, because they have all the minis and the weird cars and the.
Tell you what, it's 0 to 40. Whew, quick, direct drive e-motor. It's the future.
It's the future. Okay. Okay. Well, contrary to what you said at the beginning, you are an interesting guy. It was kind of fun to talk to you.
I do what I can with what I've got.
You're a professional race car driver. Come on.
Well, no, I have done a year of karting, so you know.
Oh, there you go. No, eSeniors, we're professionals, man.
We
My
are.
wife made a T-shirt that says "professional race car driver" on it, so I am one.
Well, my wife pays me to go out of the room. Does that count?
Yeah, right. Well, very good, Greg. I'm glad as you probably saw, I'm heading to the UK in a few weeks. Maybe we'll catch up. I'm not sure if I'm going up that side.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll give you guys some hints as to where our stops are, and maybe we'll have a beer or two.
Yeah, I'll give you a guided tour of a Kia Soul EV, and you'll love that.
There you go. Forget
Right,
I have a BMW EV.
Ah, well, there you go. A proper one.
A proper one. Okay, thanks very much. It's great talking to you, and
thank you.
We'll see you Saturday in the endurance race.
Yep, you will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye bye.